Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box? What on earth's he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. I feel it. Do you feel it?
Faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup exploring over 60 years of the Doctor Who universe. Hold on tight. You never know where the crew of the TARDIS is going next.
Hey there, Whovians, and welcome to another episode of Earth Station Who. That's right, folks. We are back, and we have an amazing one for you tonight. We are talking all about 73 yards. There will be spoilers. People have been complaining that we haven't been giving spoiler warnings at the beginning of our shows. And I looked at them and I told them, we're doing reviews. What do you expect that we're going to do? So, I'm giving you the spoiler warnings now, folks. And, thanks for everyone who's been listening. Our numbers have been going through the roof with us. And thank you. And thank you. Everyone who has been joining us weekly, following our reviews of the season, everyone who has been with us for a lot longer, thank you. For all of you who haven't, shame on you. Shame. But we love you anyway. And thank you very much for being here. Exactly, Mary.
What took you so long?
Exactly. We've been here waiting for you for 353 episodes. Come on.
Hey, I think
we're
they
ready
were just
for
waiting for some good Doctor Who.
Touche, my friend.
Wow,
Ooh,
Chibnall bashing.
wow.
What was that,
Wow.
like
All
2
right.
minutes?
2 minutes into the show for the first Chibnall
Hey,
bash.
I didn't mention any names.
Sure. So wonderful to see you guys. This is going to be an interesting one. We were going to play around and not have the theme song, the intro for us, and just go right into it. Sounds familiar, huh, folks? But we got a great crew to talk all about it tonight. Welcome our guests, as always. Jeremy Wilcox, welcome back, sir.
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be on Earth Station Who. I've been on the OG pod, and I'm glad to be on the Who pod to talk all about the new series.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I've been trying to figure out ways to get you on the show, and I'm glad you're up here with us, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Matthew Kresal is back. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you for having me as always.
So I'm going to ask both of you guys, just real quickly, let's not go into too much. What are you guys, we're the 4 episodes in now. What were your opinions on the first 3?
I liked how they did Ruby Road, which I was with Mike. I heard the episode. I didn't like how they added the church on Ruby Road as the first episode. I don't like how they did that, but the whole season so far, like you said earlier, I think each episode is getting better and better as the season goes on. I'm looking, with Russell T Davies with the little things. So I'm trying to see how he's gonna connect it all at the end. At least I know we already triple bashed. I know we're going to have a better ending than we did with Flux. He knows how to tell a story. So I'm looking forward to the season.
Number 2 for
so
Chibnall bashing. Thank you. That is awesome. Matthew, what about you?
I was not the biggest fan of Space Babies, I must admit.
And that's
it was
okay.
It was
fine.
a little too silly for my taste. But then again, outside of Rose, there's not an RTD season opener from his first run that I really enjoyed that much, anyways. But Devil's Chord was a lot more my speed and kind of what I was hoping for, and even with the musical number at the end, which I still have mixed feelings about, but. Boom was the moment where I kind of went, this season's is starting to hit its sort of stride. The fact that it was written by Stephen Moffat probably doesn't hurt matters. Moffat's still my favorite of the modern showrunners, but the season's off to a solid start so far. So it was kind of curious to see what 73 Yards had in mind.
Awesome. And we're going to talk all about that tonight. So this should be a ton of fun. Let's also welcome our regulars. Mr. Mike Gordon. Howdy, my friend.
Howdy.
And Ms. Mary Ogle, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, everybody. It is fantastic to be here.
Yeah, we're not recording on our regular evening, and Mary was yelling at me and basically said, "How could you torture me this way, Faber?"
I'm still mad at you, making me wait for this one.
I have noticed, Mary, if you'll forgive me, but I have noticed that your intro saying it's fantastic to be here has been a lot more sincere since the series started, since
So
the new series started.
Does this count as the
Number
third
3.
Chibnall badge? I'm gonna start keeping like a little scoreboard.
We'll have on the video version, we'll have a little Chibnall head on the bottom with like little chalk marks next to it.
I'm sort of taken aback by it, actually, because I think I'd gotten so used to you saying it and not being not sincere at all, because I know you love doing the show, but also like, I just wish that things were better.
Yeah. Oh man, it's fantastic to be here.
It is.
But now it really is.
And we definitely are so happy that you guys are joining us at home. Please feedback at Earth Station Who is the best way to get in touch, with us. And also, if you get a chance, like and subscribe. You are watching us on YouTube. You're listening to us wherever fine podcasts are found. Give us 5 stars, give us a thumbs up, depend which the player you're using, it's always a great way. And if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe, as we always like to say. It's always the best way you can do it. And we do appreciate it. And we do pay attention to this. Heck, we try to even write everybody back who writes us and everything. So, we're, that's how big of Whovians, and that's how much we love you guys. So it's always good. All right, let's dive in. There isn't any real Doctor Who news, so let's get started. 73 yards. I had no idea what 73 yards was, what this was going to be about. I didn't even know if it was going to be a Dr. Light episode until I started watching it, and the Doctor disappeared. It was like
pretty quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I found out reasons why later, of course, but we'll talk about that later in the episode. But it was an interesting story. I'm glad to see Dr. Light stories, because I don't really think we got those during the Chibnall era. Did we?
Did we?
I don't think we did.
We just haven't been. We just don't know.
We don't remember.
Know. And you know what?
Yeah,
we really don't
we've
care.
wiped it from our minds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
there was
we
more
had
filler episodes than Dr. Light.
Well, they were all
That's
filler
true.
episodes.
Yeah, touche.
Well, we had that episode of Flux where Jodie basically got turned into a statue for most of its length, but that's Dr. Light only by sort of keeping up with screen time. I think in Chibnall's era, and to some extent sort of in the late Moffat era, they kind of figured out a way of doing it where they would sort of shift the screen time around, where they would shoot different things during the production block. So it's been a while since we've had the kind of the RTD style Dr. Light episodes.
Well, that totally makes sense. And I think this was really, really good. And Millie, I think she acted her butt off in this. I thought, right from the start. I thought it was showed her acting chops. She's only 19 years old, and it's pretty amazing how well she did with this. And we'll get into that some more. So let's go around. Initial thoughts. Jeremy, we'll let you go first. What were your initial thoughts on this episode?
Well, at first there was some questions that I was like, we never got that answered. But after rewatching a second time, I liked it overall. Like I said, there was very suspense as you watched it again. There were some things you missed, but I liked it as an episode, and I enjoyed it, especially on the second watch.
Okay, that's awesome. Matthew.
I actually didn't watch this till last night when you invited me to come on the show. I don't know why it took me so long, because good grief, was this brilliant. I'm sort of with Jeremy that I sort of walked away from it with questions that didn't get answered. But it's also, I think, kind of important to keep in mind that if, given the way that RTD likes to do his season-long plans, I'm fairly confident that the reason we don't have answers is because the answers will be forthcoming later on. But yeah, just sort of going into it and just being genuinely surprised by how spooky it was, by how tense it was, but also just how brilliant Millie was in this as well. And even more remarkable, given this was apparently the very first episode she shot.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was
wow.
the first one they filmed.
Yeah, because
I
she
didn't
was
know
One
doing
in the
another
first
show.
block.
Yeah.
Well, I know because I know Shooty was filming sex ed, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, he just wasn't
he had to finish that
available.
up. So they wrote a story for her to
Mhm.
take center stage, and yeah. And they
And she
filmed it
had a
first, which is me. It's sort of like when when you go back and you watch the Matt Smith era, and you find out that the Angels two-parter was the first thing that they shot, and you're like, holy crap! Like it just seemed like they had it together at that early stage, and you're amazed at how quickly they did. So, yeah, it is pretty amazing that it worked out that way, and
Yeah.
but it's great that you can't tell, right?
no.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
seemed
If
like
you
she had been playing that character already for 4 episodes, that she was already familiar with it. And if that was her first time out doing it, wow.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
like
mean
the
it,
emotion she gave, like with the mother scene, like just the emotions that she gave of, that abandonment of everything was just amazing.
Hmm.
Heartbreaking.
Very
yeah.
much so.
Mhm.
Mary, what about you?
I love this episode so much. Oh my God, Russell T just outdid himself with this. To be, I love Stephen Moffat, and I think I like this one better than Boom, which isn't really
Wow.
saying much because I really love Boom too.
Yeah.
So, and they're totally different things. But I
Okay.
tend to kind of like the spooky episodes, and this one really leans into that. I mean, this is actually, if you think about it, this is a really tragic, dark story. I mean, she is suffering throughout the whole thing, and she plays it really well. And
Hmm.
I was so impressed by her. She was only 18 when they made this way back
Really?
when. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's true because it was, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
most.
So,
So
yeah, I think it was 2022. So,
amazing.
yeah,
Really amazing.
this is a showcase for her. If anyone doubts that she could make a good companion, I don't see how they could say anything against her after this.
No, it's not just a good companion, but herself as an actress.
Yes.
The range
Yeah.
she showed in
Yes,
this
that
was
she can
just
hold her
amazing.
own as the lead without a
Yeah,
problem.
very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had a great supporting cast, She had
Mhm.
someone almost in every scene with her, so it's okay. At a distance, of course,
Yeah,
but
they're a little ways away, but
yeah,
they were providing some emotional support.
very much so.
But
Mr. Mike,
but she was,
let's get,
but it was herself. I mean, she was just acting with herself. So,
Yes.
of course,
kind of.
Mr. Mike. What about your thoughts?
I enjoy this one. This one has a definite, I love the fact that this is a fourth one. We've gotten four different styles and different kinds of stories, different genres, that kind of thing. And I like that this one taps into that. I think Russell said it was like, Welsh horror, folk horror, which it definitely taps into. You definitely get for us old school folks, you definitely get a Hammer vibe from a lot of the stuff here. I think there was a show in the UK that I enjoy called Journey into the Unknown, which I got a vibe from that off this show a lot. It definitely and I agree with everybody that Millie knocks it out of the park and her acting wise. I still don't know at the end of the day if we know much more about Ruby than we have,
No,
because
not
I've
at
kind
all.
of been
Yeah.
saying that, like that I'm kind of been not frustrated, but I just want to know more about Ruby as a person. And despite the fact that she's, the big like figure in this, I think a lot of it is repetitive, and I think it's intentionally repetitive, and it works in this story, but it doesn't necessarily tell us a lot of anything new about Ruby. And certainly for those of us who are wondering what she is or isn't or whatever the plan is for her, there's not really a lot of clues here. I don't know if I think this episode should be able to stand on its own. And there's too many people that are saying, and quite rightly so, Matthew, I'm not blaming you because you just said this, but it's like, I think we'll get the answers of what happened here later on. And to me, that's not cool. Like, I don't think this story should work as well as it does if you just waiting for answers later on. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, well, I watched the sixth episode and now this one made much more sense to me, because I just feel like that's not really what should be happening here. because I think a lot of the questions here are ones that we shouldn't get answers to because they are mystical, they are spiritual, they are magical, and they have no answer. And that would be amazing, and that's what's creepy about them. And really, I mean, what is creepier than a wind-bent dead tree in a meadow? Like, I mean, you just see that visual and you're like, oh, this is creepy. Like just a wind-bent dead tree, someone standing underneath a wind-bent dead tree in the middle of a meadow, and it's creepy. It's just so creepy. And I think this is more of a interesting emotional piece than it is a amazing story. I liked it a lot, but I do feel like if you're one of those people that always needs answers, yeah, this one is not for you.
No,
Yeah.
there are no
It's
answers
interesting
really.
that Kate
Yeah.
even brings that up in the middle
Yeah.
of the story,
Yes.
where she says, as soon as we see the inexplicable, we're immediately trying to understand it and
Yes.
make up stuff in our head about how it fits in.
Yeah, I think Russell is. I think I think and I hope that he's telling the story and he doesn't want to tell you the answers. And I think a lot of this stuff shouldn't be answered later on. That doesn't mean that there isn't stuff with Ruby that should be addressed later. Obviously, she's got a mystery about her past, but this is really more to do with Ruby and how her ultimate nightmare is abandonment issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is frequent from a lot of people who are orphans. And that's how this takes it to probably the most horrific extreme possible.
RTD had sort of said going into this that he was going to lean a lot more into the kind of the fantasy over the science fiction thing.
Sure.
And that's sort of a thing that Doctor Who has kind of gone back and forward about. I love to quote Pertwee and the Demons about science, not magic. But, as somebody who's written a book on UFOs, as much as we deal with the unexplained and the paranormal, at the end of the day, we don't have answers. And I think that may be something, as you say, Mike, that it's sort of playing into, that at the end, there is no answer to what this phenomenon is. It exists, it is there, and it has an impact on people.
Yeah.
Right. No, that totally makes
questions
sense
like
too.
who is the woman, or do we know how does that work? Has history really been changed? What is the woman saying to people that's scaring them off and causing them to abandon her? I don't think we're ever going to get the answer. I don't think this story works half as well if we get the answers to those.
No, exactly.
Especially for what she was telling them. I really hope
exactly.
Yeah.
It was. I had that in big letters on my notes at my very last thing. What did the old lady tell everybody?
Yeah.
Well, that's up to everybody. That's up to you to fill in.
Well,
and because anything you come up with is going to be 10 times more horrifying than anything RTD could.
Well,
right.
Exactly. Because even Kate Stewart didn't even get to the old lady, but the look on her face. Yeah. And I loved how Kate was like, oh, we have psychic training. We have all these blockers. Nothing could change us. We're all okay. Yeah. And then as soon as her men went up to it and I guess they radioed to her or something, and the look on her face and then how her reaction changed and almost like disgust looking at Ruby. It was just amazing.
Yeah, this is
almost as amazing as the fact that scene has now become a whole meme format on its own in just 3 days.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, as has the whole this is the second week in a row where the Doctor has stepped on something and the companion has been the one to pay the price. Like, come on, you got to be more careful, Doctor.
Yes, the Doctor doesn't watch where he steps.
In the last episode, he steps on a mine. Does he get hurt? No. Who almost dies? Ruby. Actually, I think she does kind of die, right? But
she kind of does die. That's why the snow froze last week.
But there are some elements here, of course, that are playing into the whole thing. That's the mythology of the series, and I know we'll talk about those, Mike. But I don't know if you obviously said what your feelings are, so I don't want to cut you off there.
No, keep going. I'll throw in my feelings as we're going along, so it's okay.
Well, there's look, we get Susan Twist again, we get Mrs. Flood again. this has got to be like, I think, between that and the older woman who's playing Ruby, I mean, we've got a lot of older ladies play there's got to be some sort of Doctor Who record for older ladies in an episode, which is great that they're getting work. So whether or not they're all tied together, who knows? There's nothing to go by. There's nothing to give you even any sort of traction. They're all just sort of like loosely slipped in here. So I don't know if what that all means. It's interesting, but there's nothing that's going to give you more of an answer to those questions about those two individuals in particular and what they mean to the whole story.
It was real interesting, the whole Mrs. Flood thing. And she was like, oh, you're back. And, and then she was like, oh, this has nothing to do with me. And she walked away, literally. And it was just, just like, okay, what's that mean? But then it was interesting with the Susan Twist stuff that, Ruby recognized her. It's like,
finally, somebody is paying attention.
Yeah.
Of course, when it's like, right in your face, maybe that's what it took.
Don't I know you from somewhere? And it's just like, I know you. And it's just like, oh, have you been to this village? It's like, So I wonder if this is just a red herring or if it's what it is. But it's pretty cool, how they're doing these, adding these little characters. It's making you try to guess even more so. So it's pretty cool with that. I thought it was awesome. I loved with the older woman, though, the whole thing that, the cameras couldn't focus on her. You could see her with 20/20 vision, as they said. So I would be screwed pretty much, with my with my glasses. But, it's, it would have been, it's just interesting. And the cameras, she wasn't focusing and you couldn't really focus on her when you saw her at the distance. So that was kind of interesting.
Something about a perception filter, but they never really explain it. Which I mean, they never really explain anything in here, which is fine with me. But
this is much more mystical than we usually get with Doctor Who, which is, I think, it perfectly acceptable. Especially as Matthew pointed out, this series RTD has said from the beginning that it's going to be much more magical than ones we've got in the past, because the main baddies are these magical creatures, the pantheon, right? Which I don't think, and I hope it's not the case, I don't think they have much to do with this story at all. It would kind of to me be like a little bit, I don't know, I wouldn't really I contrived if somehow they are involved with this story somehow. This seems like it's just a really cool, unique, freaky thing on its own, rather than try to incorporate into some sort of big myth.
Well, maybe that Mad Jack was one of, the toy makers, minions or something. Yeah. And what he did, the first thing he did.
It doesn't work to me.
But I know, but I'm just saying it's a possible. You don't know, but it's a possibility. And the one thing he did first is to get the Doctor out of the way for breaking. He set him free and from the circle, and the first thing he does is wipes the Doctor out of existence, basically. But they didn't wipe the Doctor like throughout his history, just from that moment on, because Kate knew who the Doctor was. The TARDIS was still there. And we'll talk about the TARDIS in a few minutes. There's some very interesting stuff there. But it's just real interesting, that, when they went at the end of the episode, when the Doctor didn't break the circle, he didn't disappear.
It kind of leans into the theory that Ruby is the one who's altering reality around her, but she's not necessarily aware of that, but that she is somehow connected to the pantheon.
Interesting. Didn't even think about that.
I mean, who knows? It's just a theory.
But every time I see snow now, it's just like, oh, what's Ruby doing now? But I think some of the scenes, it was just actually snowing in Wales.
Yeah. Some of that was a red herring, I'm pretty sure.
Of course.
Which they did have the camera angles. I don't know if you guys saw it. Like, we saw the Doctor, and then when she picked up, like Mary said, it's her interaction when she picked up the thing she read is when they saw the camera kind of angle, and you see the doctor disappear behind her when she picks up the thing. Like she was the reason he disappeared.
Oh, it was a great scene. They shot the two of them together, and then they focused on Ruby, um, reading the note, and then when they circled back around, like Jeremy said, Doctor was gone. That's just Shooty running away, like pulled
Yeah.
back behind the camera and
Yeah.
everything.
Off to his
It
other
was-
set.
Mhm, exactly. All right, mate. We'll see you in 2 weeks. So it was pretty awesome. And the first scene, what they did in that pub, that was just brilliant. And how dark and gloomy and typical horror movie or suspense. And I loved, when she said, how am I going to pay for this? Can I pay by phone? Pay by phone? What is that? And then she pulled out the Square reader. It was just like, oh, that was funny as hell.
They are
That
not
really
nice to her in the pub
No,
at all.
not at all.
They never are.
Yeah. I was going to say, knowing people who've been to Wales, that seemed like a fairly accurate depiction.
But it's also, I mean, Matthew, you also know it's a trope, right? Like, I mean, you
Oh,
go
yeah.
into this town and you go walk in and everybody stares at you, and and then you were wondering, because at that point we don't know what time, like, has she gone back in time or what's happening here?
Exactly.
And so it's really it just plays with the tropes and our expectations, and it's just RTD having a lot of fun. And ultimately it means nothing, because it doesn't actually matter to the story much at all. It's all a red herring. Anything that happens in that pub is just a red herring for the rest of the story.
Yeah. It's a great bit of sort of suspense with humor. Because you keep thinking things are going to get worse, because we're trained to do that. I mean, that's also for an episode that's all about perception. We've been trained by horror movies that, these people are acting strangely and they're scared and everything else. Something horrible's about to happen, and sort of the balloon bursts and it sort of the tension dissipates. And they've just been having a laugh at her expense. And it's sort of a wonderful sort of bit of sort of playing with the tension, but also getting rid of it. But just when you think everything's going to be fine, the old lady is 73 yards away, still standing outside.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I loved the montage that they did when she got on the train,
Oh, that
going
was
back to London,
great.
and looking at the lady, all that, like in the field with sheep, and then on the city street, and then and it just kept on. Every time she looked, the woman was there. It was just like,
I think
And-
was it Stewart asked her about, like, have you tried going on an airplane? She's like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, that would just really be too
That was-
much.
Yeah.
What is she going to do? Be floating on a cloud?
I can only take so much.
She's on the
Mhm.
wing. Well, that's not quite 73 yards, but
I was fixing to say
Twilight
Nightmare at 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
it's
Nightmare at
on
73
the
yards.
wing. Yeah, 2 Twilight Zone there, folks. But it was interesting, and my one complaint for this whole episode, because there's so much good in this and so much drama and so much great acting, the only thing I didn't like is how they aged Ruby.
Or didn't age Ruby.
No, exactly. Like, when she was 25, they put her in a wig to make her hair longer. And then when she turned 40, they put glasses on her to make her look older. It's just like, no, they needed to do some kind of makeup or something to make her look a little bit older or something. And they didn't. That literally was the only thing that took me out of the story. But otherwise, I thought the story was really well done and everything. And
Yeah, I was that same way with the makeup too. Being a special effects makeup guy, I was like, wait a minute, if she's like almost 40, like they didn't age her at all. Like, and being a classic Who fan, with the TV budget of the makeup, even if it's sort of bad, like she should have had a little more than what you said with the wig and glasses.
mhm.
I think
Yeah.
to me it was just like, it's just Hollywood 40. Like if you look at like, actors or celebrities that are 40, they don't look like I did when I was 40. And so I just, I didn't worry about it. That didn't bother me. I got the point. I got what they were doing, so it didn't
Well,
really
of
matter to me.
course.
But
Well, of
but I
course.
mean, I thought she looked good, and yeah, I mean, did she look, 40? I don't even know what 40 looks like anymore. I mean, I really don't. Like,
Well,
you
it's
see
so
pictures
far
of
in your
people
rear view,
40.
Mike, your mirror, Mike. It's okay.
I know, right? That was like, yeah, 15 years
That
ago
was
for
a
me.
long
I
time
don't,
ago.
Yeah.
so, and plus, when I was 40, I didn't, I didn't, I, yeah, well, anyway, I didn't look that good. So
So anyway,
I didn't look
yes,
that good at
Yeah.
25 either. So,
Yeah. I mean,
touche.
Modern Who has kind of struggled with trying to age up companions. I mean, they tried to do it with Rory in that one scene in The Doctor's Wife. They tried doing it with Clara in Last Christmas, which I remember that scene got a lot of criticism because they aged up um, Jenna Coleman to look like she was in her 70s or something, and nobody bought it. It was the one thing everybody criticized about the episode and could absolutely agree on. So, I think that sometimes less is more, and I think that, yeah, she doesn't look like she's 40, but by putting her in a pair of spectacles, by getting her to act, a little stiffer and a little older as you do as you get older, because 40 is not that far away from me, it works and it gets the point across, as does the fact that the TV captions all tell you that you're now 22 years in the future on from where you are in real life. The real question is, are all the fashions and stuff going to look like that in 2046 or not?
yeah, that we won't know. So,
We won't know unless you have
I
a
was
time
glad they
machine.
they got, like, Amanda Walker to play her when she was much older, because it was nice that they didn't have to have that, her just caked with makeup and looking older, and that, because that doesn't, as Matt said, that doesn't work very much. So,
No.
and Amanda
Nope.
Walker's a great actress. I've seen her in a lot of other things, and that was amazing. Oh, by the way, that scene where she, finally the figure like reaches the 73-yard thing and then comes right at her in the hospital bed. I don't know about you guys, but I got a real 2001 vibe off that. Like, this is
Oh,
like,
big time.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
this is like him in
Same.
yeah, and how that was also like not a moment of the character dying so much as being transferred into something else, something
Mhm.
non-human, some like evolving somehow. And I thought it was really effective, a nice sort of shortcut to sort of make that transition, that she was becoming something else for whatever reason. She was becoming something else.
Yes. No, I agree with that. And it was great because the way they were flashing the light, it went from dark to light, and the woman was standing closer and closer, but you couldn't still see the face. It was like her back was turned, or
Yep.
the hair was in her face or something. I almost felt like, what was it, that one movie where the woman came out of the TV?
Yeah,
The Ring.
Oh, the ring.
Yeah, The Ring.
ring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I felt something. I
Yeah.
got that kind of vibe to it also.
yeah. I think
And
that's exactly what they were going for with that whole thing, and I think it
mhm.
worked. I mean, I think they tapped into it because it felt uncomfortable whenever they showed her, and the scenes where someone approaches her, talks to her, and then runs away was, I mean, really effective in terms of how creepy it was.
But I loved how she used it to her advantage with Roger, you know,
Mhm.
and everything to, get him out of the picture.
What did you think
And
of Roger? Do you think they developed him enough?
no,
To me,
I
that was a weak point of the episode, and I really love this episode, don't get me wrong. But I know they only have so much time and there was a lot crammed into it. And so they, I mean, it was a little hard to believe that, or they just didn't set it up enough that he would basically going to nuke
Mhm.
the world. It sort of came out of nowhere.
Exactly. Was he, a chaos agent? Was he, just crazy, or what? And that's what was just interesting about it. And that poor girl, who Ruby set up to, get close to him,
Yeah,
and
they didn't
the
really
look on
develop
terror, what that
that
was
very
about.
well.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
were some really dark implications.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
very much
absolutely.
Yeah.
so.
And that was creepy. I think, they mentioned, he mentions the prime minister. Um, the 15th Doctor mentions the Prime Minister at the beginning, so we get that set up, and we think we're going one way, but instead we go, we're going into some sort of mystical, creepy adventure, and instead we're going up against this. And again, I think Russell, used a shortcut like he did with 2001. I don't know. This is probably not as obviously it's not as like something that people are going to catch, but I got a real big like Omen 3 Final Conflict, Damien, Sam Neill vibe off of him, because it's something similar where the devil's son is going to become the Antichrist, is going to become the president of the United States. It's like, it's kind of like, it's just really like, it's all in there. And I think this one goes through like the notes version of that, the Cliff Notes version of that story.
On a similar note, I thought a lot about Stephen King's The Dead Zone, but also the 80s film version of it with
that's a good one too.
Playing that part.
Yes.
So it was I think the episode could have done one or the other. I don't necessarily think it needed to do both, but it also, that said, I think the idea that Ruby has that, this is why everything's happened. This is here to take care of this problem, and then I can get my life back. The old lady will disappear, the doctor will reappear, and life will carry on. And it turns out it's not as simple as that.
Right. That doesn't.
Right.
Exactly.
She still has to live out a natural life.
Exactly. But it was interesting because Ruby doesn't remember what happened to her and everything in this episode.
She kind of does, because she says, she tells the doctor at the end that she's been here 3 times. So something in her knows that she's been there before.
Subconscious. Yeah. It's a kind of like a deja vu thing.
Yeah. But she doesn't know. And that's a little disappointing, because we are left with the question of, I think, is this still going to happen with the Prime Minister? Like, is it still the case? Because the doctor still mentions him as being one of the worst guys from Wales. So it's kind of like, well, I guess, did she not change anything?
And I loved when, what year is this? 2024. Oops, spoilers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was a nice callback.
Nice callback to his wife.
Yeah.
That was
the real question is this something we're going to circle back to, that we're being introduced to it, that this isn't a one and done plot point? Is this something we might come back to, if not necessarily later this season, but perhaps next season, given that they're already shooting, series 2, series 15, however you want to count, or series 16, I should say, depending on how you want to count it.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey,
yeah,
Disney Plus,
and
or
they
BBC,
just recently wrapped shooting that.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time in this short series that that we've created another tangent, timeline, another pocket universe, or whatever you want to call it. Like, there's like, it's almost like we're getting tangents upon, like, it's like, I just feel like if we were on the if we were on the show Loki in the MCU, like, the time variant agents would be coming after Ruby and the doctor, being like, stop it.
The multiverse is the thing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
They are branching off and branching off,
so it's okay.
I mean, nobody said Mavity in this episode, I don't think, but
I didn't see Mavity in this one at all.
Yeah, I don't think we have that.
But, hear it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Maybe time is collapsing and nobody's realized it yet.
Or maybe the universe is resetting itself after flux.
Yeah.
See, there's our next Chibnall bias. There we go.
I'm not touching that one.
Now, a comparison that Matt was talking about with the movies too. Did anybody get a It Follows vibe as well? Like, I also got a It Follows vibes. The horror movie. They took a twist on that. Instead of not being able to, she was the one only seeing her in that, and I was like, okay, they can see her, like, but she can't interact. So I would like the twist that it was different from It Follows, where everybody else can see her too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was interesting too, because everyone, it's like when she goes, can you see that? Can you see that woman over there? And
they're like, yeah.
When they brought it out, when she brought the attention to it, yes, but it had some kind of perception field, like you guys were saying, because she said, she's even had coworkers drive around the woman, but not realizing they were and everything, not hitting her and such. It was just real interesting.
Yeah,
One of the things that
it's a mystical being.
Yeah.
One of the things Kate Stewart said was more and more supernatural stuff all around. And, and it's just interesting that it's becoming more and more apparent, that's something the Doctor did with the toy maker, released more supernatural instead of, so I found that interesting. I also liked when Kate was like going and it's like, oh yeah, we can help out with, we pick up all the old Doctor's old companions and help them out.
Give them jobs or
give them jobs,
whatever.
places to live,
Yeah.
So it was, I love that. And so it's like, oh, so she's in charge of the Doctor Who support group now. Got it.
Yeah, because that did surprise me that it took so long for them to meet, because I was, my own timeline. And granted, we don't know how long Ruby's been with the Doctor at this point, because, they've been time jumping between episodes. So we really have no idea how long they've been together.
Well, they did say, she did say, I haven't been with the Doctor all that long, but
Yeah,
Kate said, but it feels like a lifetime, doesn't it? She was like, yes.
Right, but what does that mean? Not that long.
It doesn't mean anything,
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't know.
So she's not experienced UNIT before. She doesn't know that there's other companions, kind of like so she doesn't really know all of that yet. So she can't. So that's why it's striking to me. It was striking to me in the beginning when she just abandons the TARDIS, abandons the Doctor, and just is like, well, I'm just going to go back and live out my life or whatever. And I'm like, wow, that's cold. Like, you don't even want to find him, but she has no tools to do that. She has no context to do that with. She has no way to do that. So I did find it was kind of interesting that she sort of, for someone who, the whole thing is about her, her abandonment issues. She was pretty quick to abandon the Doctor, I thought, because she was under the impression that he had abandoned her.
Well, exactly. But the other thing was the TARDIS wouldn't let her in. She had the key, but the TARDIS was not letting her in. Was the TARDIS blaming her for the Doctor disappearing? Was the TARDIS afraid of Ruby? Or the
TARDIS just knew something was wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was the TARDIS the old woman? We know that the TARDIS can project itself before. We know it's taken on human form before. Is the old woman the TARDIS trying to get Ruby to do something to reset things, and it takes, decades for Ruby to figure out that's what she has to do?
An interesting theory. I don't know if I subscribe to it, but it's an interesting theory.
I don't know if I subscribe to it myself, but I saw somebody was speculating online, and I went, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, and I didn't really get the feeling that she was abandoning the Doctor. To me, it was more like she just was out of desperation. She did not know what else to do. She couldn't get back in the TARDIS. She had no support system in Wales at all. So she went back to what was familiar, because what else could she do?
Mm-hmm.
But that's, she yeah, what else could she, but she could have hung out and tried to figure out a way in the TARDIS. She could have, I don't know if I would have been uncomfortable leaving the TARDIS just there, and leaving all those unanswered questions. But that's, I don't know. So,
but you might have felt differently though if you felt rejected by the TARDIS.
Well, that's
the TARDIS
it, and I think a lot of people,
in.
right, and a lot of people, I think that's why I saw a lot of theories suggesting that. We didn't see this, so and these are wild, suppositions, but that the Doctor, met with the woman and ran off too, and that's why he wouldn't let her in the TARDIS. Like, he changed the lock. I have seen that theory out there too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
crazy. I've seen, that's the thing about stories like this, and RTD loves this, but it's also something, it's like a mixed bag, because you have people wondering and thinking and trying to figure stuff out, but then you have all these theories that if they don't pan out, like at the end of the season, if people don't find out what the woman talked about or what the woman said to people? Are people going to be mad? Some people are. Some
Let
people are going to
'em.
be
I
mad
mean, you
that they
can't
don't.
please everybody. You
Right.
can't, and you
No.
cannot write to please everybody. That just creates terrible writing, Chris
But-
Chibnall.
But you're going to
So
have.
don't do that.
Number
But
6.
that's why, so you leave a lot of these things open, and so you get these theories that I saw. Like, I think now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one I went, wow, this is really out there. But I think in their discussion at the cafe, I think Stuart mentions to Ruby something about this. She mentions the Sontarans. And it just so happens that the Sontarans first appeared, and I didn't check this, so this is someone's theory. But they first appeared in 1973, which is why the yardage it's why it's 73 yards. That's how you got that. And I'm like, that is the biggest stretch of anything I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm gonna doubt
I
that
mean-
one.
I agree with
Yeah, I
that
mean-
one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, RTD has said it came out of being at one of the piers in Cardiff and seeing somebody off at the distance and not seeing them, but more because the pier has the things marking off distance and saw it was 73 yards and went, oh, that's a story idea. I just, we as fans love to speculate and we love to kind of read into things that aren't there because we're fans and that's what we do. So speculation only takes you so far, to quote a movie from last year.
Well, I know originally
theory will only take you so far.
Yeah.
I know what I thought originally it was going to be. I was just guessing as they were saying the lines because they said the line of that spinoff that we know is coming. I thought it was going to be something to do with the Sea Devils at first because they kept saying the line that the name of the show with the land and the sea. And so when it wasn't Sea Devils, I was like, oh, this is not exactly what I thought. I'm glad I didn't spoil myself. Did any of you make that connection to the name of the spinoff?
Yeah.
A little bit, but I
Yeah.
didn't take much stock in that because
Yeah.
I've heard that mentioned about Wales a few different times
Yeah.
from people who visited and also travel brochures and such.
I think it's
Yeah.
awesome that we got this Wales. Like usually
Yeah.
when we've seen Wales and we've seen Cardiff.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
it's a great city and everything like that, but it's not what I think brings people or to Wales. Like Wales is gorgeous and has a gorgeous coastline and you get to see it here play out and it looks stunning. And I'm so glad that they kind of that they focused on that part of Wales rather than hey, we're just having another adventure in Cardiff again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm going to go back to Roger Williams. Is that how they pronounce his last name?
Roger
G?
App William.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the G is silent, right?
It's I think so.
Yeah.
I got a very Harold Saxon feel from him in a lot of ways.
There are definitely
Yeah.
some vibes there.
Yeah,
some vibes
it's
there,
like,
too.
oh, master. No, it's like, no. They're not going to go there.
I thought, as far as, like I mentioned, shortcutting it, I thought he did a great job and he seemed menacing enough. He seemed like a character right out of a creepy Hammer horror movie, really. And so I thought that worked really well. I found it interesting that his party was the Albion party. It just really reminded me of there is a comic series that Alan Moore did with his daughter Leah Moore called Albion about superheroes coming out of Great Britain, and it's a really interesting comic. People should check it out. Which, if you're looking for a Doctor Who connection, the covers for that series, all the covers were done by Dave Gibson, who also did Star Beast. Did the interiors of that. So very British comic that I definitely recommend for people.
Right.
But you don't see that. That's an old school name for Britain. I think it's got Greek or Roman associations with it as well. But you don't see Albion used a lot in British things or whatever. So I thought that was pretty interesting, having its own political party that way. It's almost like Russell's way of saying, like, let's make Britain great again or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think that is kind of what he was doing.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely
I mean,
got those vibes too.
yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
it's not, Russell is not subtle. So I love that.
No,
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically saying here's just another narcissistic sociopath who's out to destroy the world. And
Yeah.
it's up
Exactly.
to us to stop them.
Yeah, it did
yeah.
feel like he was playing off some of the territory he did in Years and Years for anybody who's seen that with Emma Thompson's character in that.
That's true. That's very, very
Yeah.
true.
Absolutely.
I thought there was a lot of great moments in this, but I agree some of the characters could have been deeper. You know, I think that's the part of the problem, because it was what, a 43-minute episode, and it was literally, you know, I wish they would have gone to a full hour, because there's so much more they could have gone even deeper into with this.
Yeah. It does make me curious about the novelization that we're getting from Scott Hancock that's supposed to be published in August, because that thing's got a 200-page word count, or page count, I should say, per what I was reading online. So I'm wondering how much material that didn't make it into the episode is going to be in that book potentially that's going to go further into this.
Yeah. It's
Maybe we'll find out
'cause-
what the old lady said.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of times in the novelization where you like they'll have to the author takes it upon himself to explain things that were not either properly explained or left unanswered in a teleplay, and that would be interesting if they do try to take it upon themselves to do that, because I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but I don't want to see, like I said, I hope this is just a weird occurrence of an episode and not anything that's really telling us things that are going to be addressed later. In fact, if we don't see the Prime Minister guy again, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I should mention Scott Hancock, who's doing the novelization, is working under RTD in the script department at Bad Wolf, you know, working on the show. So I would think that RTD has to be being consulted, or it was consulted as the book was being written. So, but whether the answers in that are any more definitive than the online speculation or anything we've said here is, of course, a whole nother matter.
Mm-hmm.
Has
Very much
RTD
so.
ever done a novelization?
He did one of Rose.
Okay.
That was part of the first batch of Modern Who novelizations, which is I have mixed feelings. I read that book last year, and I have mixed feelings about it, because he sort of, parts of it are great and sort of expanding upon it, but it's like the whole big Auton attack at the end of the episode, which lasts 5 minutes on screen, takes up like 50 pages, and you can tell there's moments when RTD is just trying to fill in the word count somehow.
I love it. All right, guys. Any final thoughts before we go ahead and rate this one?
One last question I have for everybody.
Sure.
Because I'm torn on this. Shooty comes out, and he's only in this for, like we said, a little bit, like maybe 10 minutes. I don't even think it's 10 minutes.
Not even
5
10
minutes
minutes
tops of screen time between the beginning and the end, right?
Mhm.
Comes out in a completely different outfit that he's worn in the previous episodes, which he continues to do. He does not have a set costume, right? Which is kind of cool. It's kind of his thing. But I do admit that it's kind of, from a marketing perspective, it's kind of difficult to market a guy who always is changing his outfit. Right?
Merchandising, merchandise.
Yeah, exactly. Like, to have that look so that when you see him, you're like, he's the Doctor. So I think it does require him, and I think he's more than up for it as far as an acting challenge to you know, personality wise, be that guy. But as far as he's getting no help from the outfits other than he always looks great. So I don't know. How do you feel about, I mean, this is just a throwaway. Like, he could have been wearing something that was in one of the previous episodes, and it wouldn't have mattered. But I think they've made it clear that every episode now, or every adventure, he's going to have a different look. And I have mixed feelings about it. So I just wondered if anybody else, if it even registered with anybody else.
I mean, it doesn't bother me at all. I just take it as this is a quirk of his particular Doctor's personality. This quirk happens to be, I'm going to wear a different outfit every time.
Mm-hmm. It actually shows that he showers and changes clothes and everything.
Well, we don't know that. He changes clothes.
Yeah, we don't know if he takes a shower.
We don't know that he showers. We would hope they all do.
Yes.
I have wondered if it's kind of a response to the seemingly endless criticism of particularly classic Who as well, that the Doctor never changes his outfit, that they could be on a desert planet and the Doctor's still going to be wearing a frock coat and everything else. So there's a certain logic to the idea that he's going to dress for the occasion more so than the companion has in the past. On the flip side of that, you talk about the merchandising issues and not being able to identify the character. The flip side of that is endless cosplay. And already when I was at Chicago TARDIS last November, there were the outfits that we knew he was going to be wearing. I saw, the suit from Devil's Cord. I think somebody was wearing the outfit from this episode, and somebody was wearing the one that he wore in the Christmas special. And that was before it ever aired. And I'm really kind of curious to see. It means that people can cosplay. And it also, it's never going to be the kind of endless, with Tenet, it was always the blue suit or the, and everything else. People will be able to, right. And people will be able to do their own version. Because it's also one of the things I occasionally hear, about people cosplaying is, well, that outfit doesn't look good on me. Well, now you don't have to pick one outfit. You can do whichever one you like. So it's from a fan point of view and from somebody who does the odd bit of cosplaying, it's a godsend.
Yeah, I get that. It's just that if I wasn't at a Doctor Who convention, if I was at Dragon Con and somebody walked up to me in the outfit that the Doctor has now in this episode, it wouldn't click. If someone walks up to me, if I see someone with a scarf or something like that, or some of his more iconic looks, I get that right away. But it just makes it more difficult to recognize. And I do wonder if, for a show that's trying to get new audiences, like if that's something that is hurtful at all.
Yeah, but that's not something that other popular shows do. I mean, in most shows, people are wearing different clothes and different episodes.
I think, Mandalorian always wears that outfit. In fact, we hardly ever see his face.
Half the time
Percy
Jackson really
exceptions rather than the rules.
Percy Jackson always wears what he wears. I think it. I don't know. I think it is. Columbo always wears what Columbo wears. Like there's something to be said for having a standard look, right? So,
well, I think there's also something to be said for not having a standard look.
Exactly.
Right. And the other thing is if you're in an outfit and somebody doesn't recognize you, it doesn't matter. Having in my Seventh Doctor costume, I have been mistaken for a Christmas character at a mall before, which was a very strange circumstance. So, if people don't know what the costume is, they're not going to know what the costume is. So you might as well just wear whatever. And, other doctors would swap costumes from time to time as well. I mean, true, the silhouette never changed with Pertwee, but Pertwee was, red and black and purple and everything else, changing his jacket all the time. And Davison and Colin Baker would take their jackets off, from time to time too. Sylvester changes his suit jacket, in his final season. And in the books, he completely changes his outfit later on. So, I think it sort of depends on what you're aiming for and what you're expecting out of the outfit, but also that people are going to necessarily recognize that. We don't necessarily recognize the Doctor Who for whatever somebody's wearing. We recognize them from as you said, the scarf or the sonic screwdriver, or if they've got a TARDIS or not.
Yeah, exactly. It's just something, like I said, I see the benefits and the drawbacks to it, and I'm conflicted, not in a way that drives me crazy, but it's just an interesting, like I said, discussion. And like I said, as far as cosplayer goes, I said, because I did think to myself, like, if someone was wearing that, even though I've watched the episode, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, I don't know if I'd make that connection right away. And whenever I think of that, I think of. There was I don't know, this was a few years ago, but I'll never forget it. And this was something but Mike had taken pictures. He always takes pictures of Dragon Con, like tons of people at cosplay at Dragon Con. And he took one of the pictures that he took was this guy who was dressed like Charlie Brown. And he was just wearing a yellow t-shirt with the pattern on the t-shirt. He was bald. But he didn't have the little squiggly line on him or anything, but he was just bald and had the t-shirt on and pants. And Mike posted the picture, and the guy said, "You were like one of only two people to take pictures of me. Thank you so much for recognizing who I was." And I'll never forget that. It's so when I go to shows and I see like cosplayers, sometimes I see people who are not getting their picture taken, and I feel kind of bad for them.
Yeah, but
No, and I
everybody's not
understand
always
that. Yeah.
gonna, it doesn't, you're never gonna get 100% recognition,
Well, or an
no
example,
matter
the very
what.
first time I went to Dragon Con and I cosplayed as Silent Bob because my hair was longer and I had the beard and I wore the trench coat, the baseball hat back. I heard someone saying, "He looks really good, but I don't know if that's how he really dresses or if he's trying to cosplay as Kevin Smith."
Oh yeah, I have the same thing. Like I went to Dragon the first time too, and I was Slash, and the only person who recognized me was when I met Alice Cooper, and he realized I was Slash. And so it just for you, it just depends on like your thing. But when it comes to me for his costume,
well, if there's one person that's going to be awesome for you to recognize you, that is like up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you won right there, Jeremy.
Yeah,
I really did.
that's a win no matter what.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. And then with the cosplay thing too, being a cosplay and a figure collector too, I think what they're doing with the new generation too, that changing one thing I did like is the androgyny of his outfits too. Being with cosplay that you can do, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I can't cosplay the Doctor because he's mainly been a cis white guy, and so they're like, okay, now with his outfits being androgynous, I can cosplay him as a female, a male, or as
Whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, you can
Exactly.
cosplay this character because the outfits are so not just for one, what you are. And so I like that idea too. And from a figure person, I like we can get multivariants, especially Funko. I know they're going to do that. I'm hoping. I know me
They
and Mike
better.
for Doctor Who Funkos doing different versions of that and getting. I just hope they don't do the exclusive thing where they're like $300 for the Maestro version where he's the 60s look. But yeah, as a figure collector, I like that they're doing that. So I'm hoping with that we get more merchandise with different variants. And for some people who have certain outfits for their favorite episode, like I have a rose, and it's I know a lot of people it's if on it, the New Earth episode from the second episode from the first, the second season with David. And it's that outfit from that episode. And I'm like, okay, I like that it's a different variant because it's this costume from that episode, and it's my favorite episode. So I put it with that David. So I'm hoping with that we get a variety of different
Variants.
figures and more merchandise. Yeah,
I'm hoping exactly the same thing.
Well,
all right.
I mean, they're all going to be variants because there's no standard yet.
No, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I have is he has stripes in all of his outfits. That's the only thing I can see so far is there's stripes in almost every one of his outfits so far.
And no matter what, the Shooties makes it work, man. He looks
oh
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
He looks great.
He always looks stunning and ready to go.
All right, kids, let's go ahead and rate this one. 1 out of 5 TARDISes, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Matthew, you get to go first tonight.
Oh, I think a 4.5 is what I'm going to do if a half TARDIS will destroy the universe as we know it. I think I'm still aggravated by some of the unanswered questions at the end of it. I feel a little better about that, having sat through the conversation and Mike sort of raising the point about the paranormal and the mystical and not always having answers to things. But that being said, I think that there's parts of it which are overdeveloped, there's parts of it which are underdeveloped, but it's really kind of held together by the spookiness of it, but also Millie's performance. And given, as we said, this is the very first thing that she shot, she knocked it out of the park straight away. And it'll be interesting to see if we revisit any of this later in the season. But maybe my score will go up or down depending on that. But for now, I'm going to stick with a 4.5.
Okay. Mary.
I think I'm also going to give it a 4.5. It fell apart for me a little bit on the development of Roger Rapp William, but not to the point where the whole episode fell apart. I mean, I think the episode as a whole is very effective. It's an absolute showcase for Millie Gibson, and I really liked having that kind of character study. I mean, I actually do. I realize it didn't give us like concrete backstory, but I feel like it gave us emotional backstory. And also I think it touches on a really primal fear, which is that a lot of children have, which is, losing your parents. And I thought they did that really effectively. And I also liked the way she kept soldiering on no matter what. I think that said a lot about her character.
Oh,
So,
a lot of the loss she went through was heartbreaking when her mother,
that was so tragic.
Was on the
When
phone
she's
with
driving
her
by in the cab, or when the cab's driving
oh,
by
the
with
cab,
her.
the look that she gave, but
it's like
then
a
when
child.
she was
breaks you. That just
when
breaks
she was
you.
on the phone with her, it's like, and she said, I'm not, I'm not even your mother, and and your real mother didn't even want you, it's just
it's like
oh, that was just like, here, just rip my heart out right here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a lot of children's greatest fear is losing their parents in one way or another, and they really tapped into that. And I think that said a lot about Ruby's character.
Mhm.
So I think I'm gonna stick with a 4.5. Great episode.
Okay, awesome, Mr. Mike.
I'm going to go with a 4. It's not enough for me to give it a 0.5. Sorry, guys, but I did like it a lot. It was really, I was engaged through the whole episode. There wasn't any point where I was like, this is just whatever. It was a nice change of pace coming from RTD. There's no. It's like it's really difficult to reconcile. Like, this is the same guy who gave us Space Babies. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
the same guy who gave us Turn Left and Midnight.
some yeah. I mean, he's very complex. I mean, he's capable of some, and it does what Doctor Who I think does best, and what most people remember Doctor Who for. Because when most people talk about watching Doctor Who as a kid, they talk about being scared, going behind the couch, getting creeped out by this monster, that situation, whatever. And that's been a trademark of Doctor Who, like, as long as Doctor Who's been around. So I do think that this is right there for that. And it does take a very interesting take on that. And it's one of those, And I think I was not bothered by some of the looseness of the resolution and what it means for this story. And too much has been placed on what it could mean for going forward. And so I really hope, it actually could get less points from me if it's followed up with in any way. Because I just don't know if you should really like add to this, but I enjoyed it overall. Oh, and the performances are amazing.
Okay, Jeremy.
I have to say it's a 4.5 for me, like the others. I'd say it's just because just the emotions that we've seen in Boom, and this is just on top of that after seeing Judy and now seeing her do her take with her emotions, and that scene, like we were all talking about in the car, I can relate to that. So it hit me a little harder because I've had that moment before with a parent of the abandoning them. So that scene hit me a little harder. So that this episode, just with the showing her character, just her already not feeling who she is, and like not knowing her background, and then just taking what she already had and established and just ripping that away with that little bit of that she had of belonging. It just tore so much at me. But it's like I said, if this is what we're getting, like, I'm just, every episode has gotten better and better, and I'm just can't give it a full 5 because I want to see what that ending is going to be, to see if that's going to be the one that's going to top the rest of it, So I'm giving a 4.5 with just what we have so far in the season and what this episode brung to the entire story itself.
Okay. For me, I'm going to do 4.75. And
damn.
Very
this is
close
not Price is Right, Mike.
No, I know. But you know what? I'm going to get up on the stage with Bob, and I will be very happy. You won a new TARDIS. Yeah.
Can I change mine to just $1?
Exactly. And that's the thing about it. The only thing, there was parts of the story I felt were rushed, and more that I wanted to see. And partly, like Mike said, I want to see if this ties into anything further into the season or even next season. Where is this going to go? And it's going to be awesome. Millie acted her butt off in this. She earned my respect. This will be something that I'm going to probably want to watch a couple more times because I want to see what I've missed. I have right now 40 bullet points that I've made just from my first watching of this. I'm going to be very curious to see what the second or third or even fourth version will do. So I'll be very curious to see where we go with it. Will, the numbers change? Maybe watch this space. And, but I'm very happy with the direction this show is going. And, the haters are always going to hate. The haters are out there. You know what? I'm loving what we're doing. I'm loving what we're getting. And I'm just having damn fun having good Doctor Who back. That's number 7 for my Chibnall Bash. So it's good. So, it's always a blast to be able to talk with really fun people. And all of us didn't agree on stuff, which is always better and everything, all positive. But we had all different points that we liked in this. And that's what is so awesome about this show and doing a show like this with these folks, and definitely would love doing it for you guys at home. Feedback at our station, who is the best way to do, to get in touch with us and such. Check us out on social media. We've got an amazing Facebook group. Check us out up on Instagram. We also have a YouTube channel now, and you could see these lovely faces on YouTube. So yeah, we're smiling and we're happy, and we're,
I need to get one of those perception filters.
Yes, we do. We should all be 73 yards away from the camera and, and everything. The other thing I didn't even bring up is the hand gestures that the woman was doing. Was it sign language? I was just, I was trying to look it up and everything, and nobody has said anything about that.
On the Doctor Who podcast, they said it was the Macarena.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah, I saw her go like this.
Yep.
So it was pretty awesome. Of course. That would make so much more sense.
There you go.
So
mystery solved.
Exactly. But you know what, folks? If you made it this far into the show, please like and subscribe. That's all we could ever ask. And we do appreciate it when you do. Let's thank our cast for being here. Jeremy, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Glad for being here.
Anything you want to promote or anything? Or shout out?
Just my Fandom Squad podcast is my podcast. My production company, Fandom Punk Productions. We are developing a dark comedy animated series at the moment. And so look forward to the Dysfunctionals.
That's awesome. Can't wait. And Matthew, what do you got going on, my friend?
Well, I have just sent off to my publisher last week to help redress the Chibnall bashing on the show this evening. I have just sent off the manuscript for the Black Archive entry for Orphan 55 from Obverse Books, taking a deep dive into that episode from back in 2020. So hopefully everybody will be able to read it starting in October if all goes according to plan.
That is awesome. And let's thank our regulars, of course. Mr. Mike Gordon, you made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
And Ms. Mary Ogle, always great to talk to you.
I was so wanted to talk to you guys about this episode. I'm really glad we got the chance to. Please, everybody go out and watch it. It's wonderful.
It is. You want to promote your artwork real quick?
You can find me at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Excellent. Check her stuff out, folks. She does some amazing artwork. And, every one of these folks here that I work with are such a talent. And it's my pleasure to be able to work with each and every one of you guys. Until next week, we will see you. And it'll be very interesting. Next week's episode looks something out of like Black Mirror or something almost in some ways. So I'm be very curious to see what we got. And just a little food for thought. If you took a peek at Kate Stewart, she had very red nails. Just saying.
I noticed that. Yeah.
And that's where we're going to end the show. See you all next week. Hugs and kisses. Bye.
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talents from throughout space and time. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individuals and are to be used for entertainment value alone. You can subscribe to our show wherever fine podcasts are found, or check out our website, earthstationwho.com. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook or Instagram, and if you enjoyed the show, please write to us at feedback@earthstationwho.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next journey of Earth Station Who.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.